Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a super fun and super exciting video for you guys today because we're playing Amazing K3's new demo for Castlevania Symphony of Blood. If you can't tell already, it's pretty obvious on screen. This is a combination of the concepts of both Rondo of Blood as well as the world of Symphony of the Night into one brand new game. And to say the level of technical mastery and fun on display here is awesome would be an understatement. This might be the most promising in-development ROM hack or new game in the Castlevania franchise. It is just straight up from start to finish, even though it is just a demo, a ton of fun with a lot of new movement, tech, and concepts that really do marry together perfectly. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. Now this is running in an engine that has nothing to do with either Rondo of Blood or Symphony of the Night, because you're going to find it as a PC executable, and I will leave a link to the developer's YouTube page down below. In their most recent video you will find the GitHub link as well as the Dropbox to actually download the demo. But honestly, Symphony of the Night as well as Rondo of Blood are coming across perfectly on screen, from the sprites to the backgrounds to the fun new effects that basically just try to emulate what you saw in the PlayStation 1 version, but in a more modern platform and lens. It just 100% works, and I really genuinely want to see more of this game. And I just love how you basically upgrade Richter as a character with new movement tech after you beat every single boss. It is a very well thought out and designed system. You basically start with just nothing more than a couple weapons and your backdash, and as you go through the game you're going to find new weapons and you'll be able to enable them just like you would on a la carte in Symphony of the Night. And you're also going to get a bunch of new move tech, and that's going to open this demo up so much. And I can't wait to see how the entirety of the Symphony of the Night map ends up working in Symphony of Blood. Now that being said, I do have to be honest, not every single ROM hack or new game that comes out as a demo actually ends up seeing the finish line, but if there is one game right now in active development that I really genuinely hope gets to see a completion, it's going to be Symphony of Blood, because everything here is just such a fun and well-designed pivot on the formula of both games. And I love here you're going to get a completely different boss earlier in the castle, and once you defeat this boss, that's when you're going to get your first of your new move set. And I can't wait to see what else could be included in for Richter here. Obviously at the end of the demo you're going to see we don't have a double jump, so that's definitely something you will have. And if this does take the structure of the actual castle from Symphony of the Night, basically 1-to-1, there'd have to be some way for Richter basically to be able to infinitely jump like he does in Symphony of the Night to be able to traverse the castle. And I will say having new bosses here is fun with a new moveset. Maybe you could use a couple more frames of animation, but again it is just a demo, and because it is a demo I'm going to forgive those little things because it isn't a finished product. But I love how these fireballs go across the screen and those particle effects come up. Kind of look like it would fit in Symphony of the Night if it was developed for something like PlayStation 3, keeping the same 2D aesthetic but basically just having more horsepower under the hood. And you'll see there I did have to use one of those life up jars. You're going to get potions and super potions just like you would in any other Castlevania game. And honestly I just really love when developers try to think outside of what the actual staples of the franchises would include and then mix and match them to make a new experience, because clearly here this is adhering to the overall structure of Symphony of the Night. That's kind of the fun part. Things are going to feel very familiar off the top, so you're going to be able to traverse the castle and not be too confused as to where to go next. And I think that is a really nice design decision, because if you're actually taking these two games and combining them together, you want people to go in a little familiar. And it is interesting that the Dark Priest Chef, there is the save icon, not the angel that you would see in Symphony of the Night. And we do have a claymore here, definitely a slower swing, which is fun because you're going to get a bunch of different weapon types, and pretty much all of the weapons are going to have a super that you can use, and that definitely is awesome, showing you one there just jumping into the sky and then coming down with that big cleave. And it is interesting that Richter runs completely past the CD loading zone. I feel like that's almost a nod to the fact that this doesn't really have any loading whatsoever, but every single weapon is going to give you a different use, and honestly some are going to be a little bit too slow for some of the scrub enemies, but you might want to actually use them when you're fighting some of the bosses for that extra damage. But seeing the marble gallery here in a new engine both immediately looks like actual Symphony of the Night, and also looks a little bit more impressive with those candles and their shimmer at the same time, really combining the best of a 32-bit aesthetic with a modern look. And the soundtrack is amazing and is going to be different than you'd hear in Symphony of the Night, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds and I'll be right back with a bunch more.
Ha!
I mean, obviously that's not the music you would hear in the Marble Gallery, but it 100% works in the context of being a Castlevania game, and the sound effects sound absolutely clear coming out of this new engine as well. So that is definitely a big plus. Amazing music, but not exactly what you'd expect. And that kind of is the overall tagline for Symphony of Blood. It is not what you would expect. Yes, it's going to feel familiar. Yes, you're going to know some of these locations and some of the enemies you're fighting, but it's going to feel completely different at the same time, and that is no small feat to accomplish, taking something that feels familiar and completely turning it upside down on its head and making it feel fresh and new. If you're wondering how to get through that door, I've found no way in the demo whatsoever, just assuming it isn't actually built out yet. And what I really enjoy is seeing some of the same bosses, but seeing them in a different light, because as we come in here, you're going to notice that there is a very familiar face, but what's actually going to happen in the fight is going to be completely different. And trust me, I'm not really spoiling anything. This demo, like I said, only takes about 20 minutes to complete. I died out once, and that's just because I was trying to rush in and throw some damage without paying attention to what was actually happening in front of me. But once you get this boss down to a certain amount of life, all of a sudden they're going to just pop off the screen and come down in a new form that never existed in Symphony of the Night. That's what I mean when I say intelligent design and pivoting your expectations. All of a sudden the eyes are glowing, the boss is faster, and it's going to have a completely different move set, and that is a ton of fun. You're never going to know what's going to happen next until you experience it first, and I do really like that combination of those modern kind of particle effects with the sprites. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think about those. I'm sure they are going to be divisive, but for me personally, 10 out of 10. It just works in the context of a 2D game combined with a few 3D elements. And like any other boss, when you beat them with Richter, you're going to go ahead and either get a life up or a new item, because now we've activated the somersault and we're going to be able to do that backflip in air. And I even love how the game teaches you very quickly how you're going to use that move set. It basically just gives you enough information for you to be able to be successful, but doesn't hold your hand too much and basically make you think that the game is playing itself. And that's something, especially in the modern era, I feel like sometimes games hold your hand a little bit too much and don't really give the player the freedom to explore and learn on their own, because that's exactly what Symphony of the Night did back in the day. And now that we have all these new moves for traversal at our disposal, you're going to be able to really breeze through the rest of the demo as far as at least the movement tech is concerned. And that's why I want to see this finish as well. The movement tech here is just so good, and I can imagine there being some really fun speedruns kind of combining all of Richter's moveset to just make sure you can move through the castle as fast as possible. And that really is fun, combining that together with the fact that you have different weapons you can choose, because in Symphony of the Night when you use Richter, you're just basically stuck with a whip, and you just have the perfect marriage of one game and another game with brand new concepts along for the ride as well. But I'm going to do soundtrack sample 2 right now, 35 seconds, and I'll come back and show you how the demo ends and talk about what I'd love to see with this demo moving forward, because trust me, I absolutely 10 out of 10 want to see this thing get finished soon, because I want to be able to review the entire thing. But enjoy. Fun music, and again, a fun repurposed boss doing something completely different than you would see in the original Symphony of the Night. And that really is the story of Symphony of Blood. It is new, it is creative, it is doing things that we haven't really seen in Castlevania, but at the same time, it's using two games that are widely considered to be not only two of the best Castlevania games of all time, but two of the best video games of all time. Because Rondo of Blood, in my opinion, is the best non-Metroidvania game ever made in the Castlevania franchise, and Symphony of the Night is still the best Metroidvania game ever made in the same franchise. They really haven't been topped in my opinion, and because Konami doesn't really give us any new games in the Castlevania series outside of the remake of Haunted Castle, which was a ton of fun. Stuff like this from fans really does keep the franchise alive, but honestly, Konami's definitely discovering some of their old franchises with the new Silent Hill coming soon, so hopefully maybe they will let someone make a 2D Metroidvania game in the classic style without trying to make it some big 3D affair like we saw from Mercury Steam. But the link to be able to grab this is down below, and trust me, it is a 10 out of 10 fun time, even if it's just a demo. This shows so much promise, and I can't wait to see what it does in the future, because I love Castlevania, and damn it, I just want to see more of it, even if it is just from fans. But we have beaten the demo. You're going to see. Thanks for playing, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.